What is going on, fellow alchemists? Welcome to Astrology. I hope this video finds you all in very good health. The whole premise of this video is to add a little bit of controversy to the whole theme of astrology. I believe that astrology, being a derivative or from the actual primordial traditions and esoteric sciences, a very important aspect of astrology has been looked over, and that is the aspects or the discipline of theory. I believe theory, being part of all the sciences, should thus be applied to the esoteric sciences as well, and that being astrology in particular. Understanding that a lot of the aspects and expressions that have been drummed up through astrology is under the assumption that the ancients understood it all, and that there was no need to remend or remelt or re-understand aspects of the natal birth chart, and in particular specific expressions of energy. So, this video is and might be controversial to some, but I ask that you just watch it and later on you think on it, and should you not agree with it, please drop down into the comment section down below, tell us why. But I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I shan't delay anymore. Men are from Mars, and women from Venus. An age-old idea which has stood the test of time. But how true is that really? In tropical and Vedic exoteric astrology, which deems Venus as the central planet of relationships, union, and love. However, in Vedic astrology, the planet has been characterized as hot and aggressive, or ugra, meaning fierce. In the Babylonian pantheon, Ishtar, or Venus, was the goddess of fertility, political power, and war. But in what sense? In mainstream commercialized astrology, Venus seems to capture the image of some Disney princess, lost amongst the flora and fauna, serenading nature and singing melodious tunes side by side with birds. Delicate and in some form oblivious to the hardships and realities of our physical world. These notions have corrupted our relationship, pun intended, with this planet and its actual function of it in the natal chart going amiss. The word Buddha is a feminine Sanskrit noun derived from the same root as the masculine for Buddha. The cosmic matter birthed into our cosmos falls under the birthing influence of the Buddha or cosmic yoni. In the occultic field, it is said that it is feminine energy which sits at the gateway of the energetic pathways of the cosmic esoteric mysteries. The Buddha is the field of manifestation, second only to the Atman, which is neutral. The Buddha births the energetic cosmic material into the vector equilibrium, or the neutral plane field of existence provided by the Atman, the highest principle. In a sense, the Buddha acts with similar characteristics as that of the theoretical quantum mechanics system of the Higgs field and its asymmetrical breaking of the Higgs boson. I explored this in one of my previous videos, so you should check that out if you're interested. Atman is said to have the Buddha as a vehicle, because the Buddha is already the first differentiation after the evolution of the universe. In this sense, the primary principle of the Atman is sifted into the Buddhic state of our physical universe and manifests in the form of consciousness. But all of this requires energy, as the Buddha itself must birth this substance into being. However, what roots the consciousness into the birth substance which surrounds it is the effects of Rahu, or the North Node, in both exoteric and traditional astrology, which conducts this process around Earth. Earth being the center crucible for the physical, as it is the lowest and most physical planet in the tree of the solar system. The energy which accompanies this cosmic birth is called Fahat, as the energy kickstarts the electrons and ions in our solar system, which falls under the primary rulership of Mars. In science, this energy best falls under the process of electromotive force, with the term force being used loosely, as the word potential would be better fitting. With Rahu being the node which anchors us into the strong illusory influences of Maya and binds with the energetic Vahadic influences of Mars, and animates the cosmic matter that has been birthed into our physical reality. This makes this process a very delicate yet powerfully charged expression of cosmic energy. But surely I don't mean Mars, given we are referring to feminine energy. Well, let's take a quick close look at the classical cultural anthropology of ancient Rome, who had Mars centered amongst its highest gods, before being replaced by Jupiter. Now, according to myth, Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus, the two brothers, who were raised in the Alba Longa, which would become the future site of Rome. The story being that they were nurtured by a wolf whom they suckled from. Of course, the better explanation is that they were in some way related to Aeneas Priams, who led refugees from the Trojan War to the Italian peninsula. Though here we see the worship of Mars as a god of agriculture and not necessarily war, as Romans prayed before Mars for a good yield and fruitful year. Although after the Greco-Roman wars, where the Latin influence absorbed a lot of the Hellenistic culture, Mars became a patron of the military, though the agrarian theme of worship hadn't died off yet. But here's where society today seems to mistake the archetype of Mars as masculine. A quick interesting side note is that Mars was eventually replaced by the goddess Minerva in the Roman pantheon, who had similar traits to Athena in Greek culture. Given that soldiers prayed to Mars for protection and not for prowess in combat, in a sense this falls in line with the traditional idea that one asks for guidance from the fatherly figure and protection from the cosmic motherly archetype. In the alchemical set of metals attributed to planets, Mars rules over iron. In this way we can see how the phahatic influence of Mars is able to energize the electrons in our cosmos and solar system. And because iron is a good conductor of electrical charge due to its metallic bonds, which allow for more than one electron to move around freely, we see the animated potential of Mars acting upon the Buddhic matter injected into our solar system and cosmos. So in a sense, Mars projects the active animation through negatively charged energy into our physical space. With this relationship that Mars shares with Rahu, the North Node, we see the delicate nature of balance being played out before us through feminine energy. This is why Maya is best attributed to the feminine, as feminine energy needs to conduct this etheric masterclass to keep continuous activity going. In the natal chart, we see this in the form of Libra or Tula in Vedic astrology, as the sign has within it the Vedic lunar mansion of Swati Nakshatra, which is ruled over by Rahu. Another side note is that Libra used to fall under the rulership of the Scorpius asterism, where Scorpio constituted 60 degrees rather than 30. Libra became the representation of the balance between Maya, or cosmic illusion, and the charge of Mars, which rules over Scorpio. In Vedic astrology, Rahu is symbolized by a circle, as a circle represents the control of illusion over the collective. The usual interpretation of the symbol for Mars, however, is that it represents a shield and a spear. But if one applies the same system of thought through esoteric themes, one can see the circle of Rahu with the arrow signifying the negative charge of phahatic locomotion of movement of the particle. But what about the star sign Mars rules over, Aries? Surely Aries falls under masculine influences. In esoteric astrology, Aries represents the start of the generative operation of the explosion of consciousness coming into being. This is where the egg unifies with the sperm cell, which without stating the obvious, takes place in the womb, and why in Vedic astrology, the nakshatra of Bharani is literally symbolized by the yoni and is found sitting in this star sign. But what about the symbolism of Aries being a male ram? Surely this is masculine. The root word of ram is Proto-Germanic and means strong, with the definition for strong being powerful, having or using great force or control. I would apply emphasis on the word control, given it is the control of Maya which creates a synchronization for the incarnation of a soul here on the physical plane. So of course this video isn't trying to say that Mars is necessarily precisely operating under the guise of masculine gender traits or feminine gender traits in any way. However, what it's trying to do, or what so far I've tried to do, is try to point out the sheer duality between how we as humans define the roles of gender based on the cosmic scope of exercise happening within our solar system. So what we see is that Mars has a more direct feminine expression based on its interaction with our solar system and the mechanisms in which it is involved in, rather than this very masculine overt expression which we for so long have been culturally understood or indoctrinated into understanding the very process and expression of this sort of planet in our natal birth chart. What we must remember though is that Mars is actually a very dry planet. Mars only generates the friction and heat as a bullet would that has been fired through the air. It is the action of friction which is generated from the moving projectile against the air itself which generates the heat, which is why Mars is signified as a hot, fiery planet. glance upon beauty, to taste and touch it, and to merge with it in formless harmony. The planet Venus is indeed the planet which rules over relationships, union, and sexual fluids. Vedic astrology refers to Venus as Shukra, which is the seminal sexual fluid released during moments of pure bliss. Venus is a planet with a rather strange orbit and axis. In mythology, Venus was said to come from the severed phallus of the Titan Uranus. But because of this, the strange orbit of Venus appears as both the morning and evening star, giving rise to the idea of two goddesses, the heavenly and earthly personas of this planet, who share mixed attributes of both masculine and feminine. Greek philosopher and classical esoteric occultist Plato once remarked that the evening star was that of the earth and therefore feminine, and the morning star was that of the heavens, therefore masculine. This sifts into the alternative iconography for Venus, which is the phallus. The phallus pointing upwards as it seeks union with the cosmic yoni. So in the scientific field, this process falls under the electromagnetic spectrum, whereby Venus represents protons in their positive state, the protons providing the phallic structure and phahatic charged electrons binding to it. In esoteric lodges, there is a belief that feminine energy is the active imagination and content of our cosmos, and masculine energy is the scaffolding structure of the universe. Here is where the symbol of Venus can be interpreted differently. The positive state symbolized by the plus, with the animated Rahu circular influence parameter above it in a phallic erect position, awaiting its opposite charge. Here is where examples such as social media can substantiate this theory. As feminine energy projects the Maya into our physical world, a masculine energy revels in the sensual display, attempting to connect with it. In short, the masculine principle responds to the active, energized feminine principle. So here's why, in Vedic astrology, as I made mention of at the start of this video, Venus is seen as Ugra and fiery, as the active protonic traits searching for negative charge compete against each other. A fine way of understanding this is with an old, slightly outdated saying, where men might build a house, but women turn it into a home, giving rise to the idea of the masculine influence of phallic cosmic structure and the energized imagination of the Buddhist feminine activity. In the natal birth chart, the cardinal cross of matter exists, connecting the cardinal and angular signs. The cardinal signs Libra and Aries and the 1st and 7th house are exactly opposite of each other, with the fire element of Aries acting as the proactive energy and Libra the reactive. However, the sign of Cancer and the 4th house, being cardinal water, act as a conductor of this energy, and Capricorn and the 10th house, the cardinal earthly insulator of this energy in the natal birth chart. Here is why in the Jyotish Vedic chart, the nakshatras or lunar mansions ruled over by Venus fall within the fire-ruled segments of the chart, with fire, according to archaic dogmatic sources, signified the masculine element, whilst water the feminine. In the Kabbalistic tree, which acts as the etheric skeletal electrical circuit of our solar system, Mars sits at the gate of Ahura and Venus the Nazar, each planet with their respective role in the cosmic circuit of etheric energy, with the influence of Neptune sitting at the highest point, creating the cosmic circuitry or connections, and other planets acting as resistors, capacitors, and switches of cosmic energy. However, Venus and Mars provide the polarity and the electromotive potential within the great cosmic solar tree, or etheric circuit. To think of the heavenly bodies through the limiting lower faculties of the human mind limits and strips them of their more etheric and spiritual expression of these planets in the natal chart. It is therefore the role of any true alchemist to escape from this limiting view and step into the endless operating potential of our heavenly host, as those from above shape what is below. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video. I'll see you in the next video. So until then, goodbye.